There is a sound playing right now somewhere near you. You're not hearing it. But 10,000 years ago, your ancestor would have stopped. Mid-breath, mid-step, every muscle in their body would have gone completely still because they knew something you've forgotten. And the terrifying part? What they knew might have just saved your life too. Imagine a forest. Not the peaceful kind from a nature documentary. The real kind, dark, dense, alive with sound. You are a human. No weapons worth mentioning. No walls. No locks. You are, by every biological measure, one of the most fragile creatures in that environment. But you're still here. Your species is still here. And part of the reason, a bigger part than almost anyone talks about, is that your ancestors listened to birds. Not metaphorically, not poetically, literally, with the kind of focused, almost religious attention that we now reserve for emergency sirens. The forest spoke in a language, and birds were the language. But here's what nobody tells you about that language. Birds are not neutral observers of the world. They are alarm systems, highly tuned, constantly broadcasting, operating on a frequency that cuts through chaos. A robin goes silent mid-song. A flock of starlings explodes from a tree all at once. A hawk's warning call echoes from the east. To us, these are background noise, ambience, the kind of thing you put in a spa playlist. To your ancestors, each of those sounds was a sentence, a specific information-dense message about what was moving through the environment and where. And this is where it starts to get strange. Because researchers studying indigenous hunter-gatherer communities noticed something that stopped them cold. These communities didn't just react to bird sounds, they anticipated them. They built entire mental maps of the forest based on bird behavior, maps that updated in real time constantly without ever needing to look. They knew that when the thrush stopped singing on the north ridge, something large was moving through. They knew that a specific alarm call from a red-winged blackbird meant a ground predator, not an aerial one. Different posture, different threat, different response. The birds weren't just signaling danger, they were specifying it. But that wasn't the part that disturbed researchers most. Here's what they found when they dug deeper. The ancient human brain, your brain, the one you're using right now, is structurally wired to respond to bird alarm calls the way it responds to a human scream. Same neural pathways. Same stress response cascade. Same involuntary physical reaction. You don't choose to respond, your body just does. Which means the relationship between humans and bird sound isn't cultural. It isn't learned behavior passed down through stories. It is encoded deep in your biology, below the level of conscious thought. Your nervous system was literally shaped by millions of years of listening to birds. And here's the part almost nobody talks about. It works in reverse too. When birds don't sound alarmed, when they're singing freely, moving casually, chattering without urgency, the human nervous system reads that as safety, as permission to relax, to be present, to lower the guard. There is actual scientific data showing that hospital patients recover faster when they can hear birdsong. That cognitive performance improves after exposure to natural bird sounds. That stress hormones drop. This isn't mystical. This is millions of years of operating inside the same ecosystem. Birds became, effectively, an external nervous system for early humans, an extension of your own threat detection hardware. And then something happened. We turned it off. Not deliberately, not all at once. But over generations, we moved into cities, into buildings, into environments so acoustically saturated with machine noise that the bird layer simply disappeared beneath it. Traffic, air conditioning, notifications, engines. We built a world so loud that the original signal became inaudible, And here is where you need to sit with something uncomfortable. That signal didn't stop mattering because we stopped hearing it. Your nervous system didn't update its firmware when you moved to a city. The biological circuitry is still there. Still running? Still scanning? It's just receiving static now. Some researchers believe this is connected to something we can't quite explain. A pervasive, low-grade anxiety that seems to define modern life. The sense of unease that people report even when nothing is technically wrong. The inability to fully relax even in objectively safe environments. Your ancient brain is still listening for the birds, and it can't find them. But this isn't really about birds. It never was. What we're actually talking about is attention. The kind of attention that isn't distracted, isn't divided, isn't performed for an audience. The kind of attention that your ancestors had no choice but to develop because the alternative was death. They paid attention to the world because the world was paying attention back. Every sound carried information. Every silence was a message. The environment was not background. It was content. We have inverted this entirely. Now the background is everywhere: billboards, feeds, notifications, noise, and the content has become us. Our own thoughts, our own performance, our own anxiety loops, spinning in the absence of real external signal. Ancient humans weren't more spiritual. They weren't more enlightened. They were just present. Radically, physiologically present. Because something was always listening to how present they were. And the birds were the proof of that presence. If you could hear them and read them correctly, you stayed alive. If you couldn't, you didn't. There was no middle ground. No distraction that was acceptable, no notification worth checking. The birds didn't care about your internal monologue. There's a concept in psychology called baseline awareness, the default state of attentiveness that your nervous system returns to when it isn't actively focused on a task. For most of human history, that baseline was calibrated against the living world. Wind direction, animal movement, the specific acoustic texture of your particular patch of forest. It was a finely tuned instrument. We have spent the last century smashing it against concrete. And the strangest part, the part that has started to haunt behavioral scientists, is that when modern people are placed in environments where birdsong is present and natural, their baseline awareness immediately begins to recalibrate within minutes. The body remembers what the mind has forgotten, which raises a question that I want you to sit with. If we are capable of recalibrating that quickly, if the ancient hardware is still intact under all the noise, what does that say about what we've been suppressing? What kind of intelligence, what quality of presence, what depth of awareness are we walking around with the volume turned all the way down on? What have we been missing? Your ancestors did not ignore bird sounds because they couldn't afford to. But here's the thing, neither can you. Not because a predator is coming, not because your survival is at stake in the immediate physical sense, but because the silence of the birds in your life, the absence of real signal in all that noise,
might be the most dangerous thing you've never noticed. You live in the loudest moment in human history, and something ancient in you is still waiting, still listening, still asking, what are the birds saying right now?